All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another live stream. I do hope you can hear me and this microphone isn't falling out of my phone. Also, Dion, how's it going? I wanted to talk about the Brandon Kavanaugh situation, despite the fact that everyone and their dog has been speaking about it, especially with the foreigner YouTubers here in Taiwan who will jump on any chance they get to talk about Taiwan when it's in the international news. Lots of people have been asking about my thoughts about the situation because I guess I'm the China-Taiwan guy or whatever. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a full video out of this. That's why I'm doing a live stream to try and lay my thoughts out. I don't know if there's much more to say that other people haven't already, but I figured we would just get into that. And yeah, life in Taiwan. Finally using your idea for a video. That's right, Alan. Wasn't it? That definitely hasn't been done before. A totally original idea by Alan. So just in case you guys don't know for some reason, I'm sure you do know if you're clicking on this video. Hello from Ottawa. Hello. Brandon Kavanaugh is a YouTuber and a pianist. He's someone who, Jesus Christ, that nail salon lady is very attractive. But yeah, so he's a guy who basically does piano performances in public, and he interacts with the public in his videos. I've seen a few of his stuff and it's fun. It's just like, you know, providing a little bit of brightness and cheeriness in everyone's day. Pretty talented guy. Anyways, one day he was doing a video where he's playing a piano somewhere, I think in the UK. And a group of Chinese people, weirdly enough, like holding Chinese flags, wearing like red scarves, approach him and ask him to not film them because they're part of some kind of TV production or they're filming something else. And they asked him to stop filming because their image rights are being protected under whatever TV show that they're filming. And Brandon Kavanaugh is like, sorry, you're in public. I can film whoever the hell I want. And he's like, you know, we're not in China anymore. And he touches the Chinese flag that one of the women is holding. And the guy who's filming, I think it's the guy who's filming, loses his goddamn mind and starts screaming at him, don't touch her, you're not the same age. Just freaks out. And that kind of startles Brandon Kavanaugh a bit, as it would anyone. Like, this guy just erupts in anger. It was really odd. It was really, the whole situation is extremely, extremely odd. Okay, and then, so that whole situation happens, it blows up in the internet, gets millions and millions of views on YouTube, and he gets an interview with Piers Morgan. Anyways, he goes back to that very same piano. Well, actually, before he went back to that piano, the piano that he played on, it was like donated by Elton John, I think, and then after that situation, it was like cordoned off. They've since reopened it, but that was really odd. We'll get into that in a second. But anyways, I think a week later, just today or yesterday, he goes back to the same piano, but this time he's holding a Taiwanese flag while I think a military veteran, is playing the bagpipes, and he's kind of like dancing on the chair, and then he takes the Taiwanese flag and he drapes it over the piano and he starts playing along to the bagpipes. And this is where my issue comes in. This is the part that I want to talk about that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. This is my take on it. And my take on it is this. As soon as he did that, a whole bunch of YouTubers in Taiwan and other people around the world start thanking him for supporting Taiwan, and kind of shoving it in China's face, so to speak. My issue with it is that, well, it's this. He's not actually like supporting Taiwan. Yes, he's holding a Taiwanese flag, but that doesn't mean he's supporting Taiwan at all. What he's doing is just annoying Chinese people. This whole situation, this whole thing that happened, became part of a larger conversation of freedom of speech, particularly in the UK. And he's not, just because you're holding a Taiwanese flag, it doesn't mean you're actually supporting Taiwan. It looks like you are, but my guess is he doesn't actually know anything about Taiwan. He knows so little about Taiwan that when he first holds up the flag, he's holding it up backwards, which is fine, right? Like it's an honest mistake, whatever. You're live, you're in front of lots of people. You don't know anything about the Taiwanese flag. You've never seen it. And I guess when he's holding it, it looks correct, but to everyone else, it's backwards. Doesn't really matter. That's like a minor thing. And you don't have to know anything about Taiwan, I guess, to support it. Because I guess you could make the argument that maybe he's not necessarily supporting Taiwan itself, but he's supporting the idea of what Taiwan represents, which is democracy and freedom of speech, and basically the opposite of what China is. Basically, all the things that China doesn't have, you could make the argument that Taiwan has when it comes to things like freedom of speech and certain rights. And I found it a bit like it wasn't really about supporting Taiwan or even the idea of the country itself. I think what it was more of just like these Chinese people make the cardinal, the sin, the biggest mistake that they could do, which is trying to tell a British person what he can or can't do in public. Big mistake. I was in Liverpool a month ago and I had a lovely time, by the way. I think British people are great. They were all very, very nice to me, very friendly, very loving people, great sense of humor. But to get in their face and to try and stop this guy from just like shooting in public was like such a big mistake. And so what he does is he jumps on top of the piano chair a few days later with a big Taiwanese flag to just kind of like, you know what I mean? I could do whatever I want. And so he's kind of using the flag, he's using the idea of Taiwan as a way to kind of, give it back to China a bit, to kind of rub their noses in it a little bit. And at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with Taiwan. And my main point, my main idea, I've said this a lot, is that the only thing that people know about Taiwan is what it has to do with China. That's it. This guy, hang on, I just got a super chat from Dion. I wonder if that Chinese film crew actually had a permit to film there. Good question. I wonder if there was even a Chinese film crew present. That was the other part of this live stream that I wanted to get into, is that whole situation is so odd. Like, for me, I have a lot of experience filming and shooting in China because I lived there for 4 years. I think I did YouTube for about 2 or 3 years while I was there. And I've never, at least off the top of my head, I've never had that situation happen to me before. I've never had, the only time I've had people ask me to stop filming is if we were shooting in a restaurant or a store or a mall or something where like it's a private business and the owners were not comfortable with us filming there. And that's fine, right? It's your business. You get to set the rules, and if you don't want someone shooting in there, that's fine. We would just stop shooting. It wasn't really a big deal. We would just go find somewhere else to film our video. But I've never had like members of the public come up to us and freak out. But the legality, the laws, the way it works over there in China is that, oh, Logan's here, what's up? He just simply using Taiwan as a pawn for the message. Sadly, all publicity isn't good publicity. I'm gonna get into that in just a second, Logan. I think that, yeah, you understand the message I'm trying to portray here. I think what he did ultimately is a good thing for Taiwan. I think any way they can get on the public, in the international space, in any way that Taiwan's issues can be shown to as many people as possible, I think ultimately is a good thing. But I really don't think that whole thing had anything to do with Taiwan, despite him holding the flag. But anyways, so the laws in China are that you actually, I think legally speaking, technically speaking, you actually aren't allowed to film publicly there. You have to have a special kind of journalism license. Things like journalists from the BBC would have, or CNN, or whoever goes to shoot there. How do I say that? Maybe with more like official purposes, I think is what I'm trying to say. They would have some kind of journal license where you can go and you can shoot there. But as a YouTuber, like, you don't have a journalist's license at all, right? You just go there and you shoot. You're not technically allowed to, but of course, in today's day and age, when a billion Chinese people are walking around with high quality cameras in their pockets. There's no real way to enforce this law. It's more, I think they would probably use this as some way for like spies and stuff, you know, like, and get them on charges of like filming in public without a journalist license, which did end up happening to friends of mine and myself as well, which is part of the reason we left China, is that, you know, let's say for example a YouTuber does go there and they start shooting things like the Uyghur situation up in Xinjiang province, or, you know, the countless other ways that China tramples on human rights, basic human rights that we usually agree on in the West. They can go in with this law and just say, well, you weren't allowed to film that, so we'll charge you on that and send you to prison. That's what it's for. But in reality, like, nobody actually takes action against that. Nobody actually, you know, nobody in public, at least in my anecdotal experience, walked up to me and said, please don't film me while we're in public, even though I guess technically I wasn't allowed to. So that situation never happened to me. But the whole thing is so weird. It's so weird. Like, you just so happen to have a bunch of Chinese people holding Chinese flags, wearing scarves, like, so obviously Chinese, saying they're part of a film crew. I didn't see any film crew in the video I watched, but what a weird, like, what is that? So part of me feels like they're there for something else. I don't know if it's anything nefarious on part of like the CCP's part, or the government part, because it's pretty like, you're not being very, you know, you're not hiding anything if you're walking around with literal Chinese flags in your hand. So weird. And then, but yeah, Logan, how is that publicity harmful to Taiwan? I'm not, okay, so I don't think that what Logan is saying is that it's harmful for Taiwan, and I'm not saying that either. I think ultimately it's a good thing. My point is, it doesn't actually have to do with Taiwan at all. It's just to do with China. And the only way, I shouldn't say the only way, but the easiest way to get views on YouTube from my position is to talk about China. That's just the fact of the matter. Like, I've made this video before, I think Alan has as well, that no one cares about Taiwan. And I think that rings true. I think that most people use Taiwan as a pawn, like Logan said, to try and push their own opinions on democracy and freedom of speech without actually knowing anything about the country itself. And I think that that's a little hollow and a little bit disingenuous, I think. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, you have to know everything about Taiwan and you have to come to Taiwan and you have to know Taiwanese people and you have to, I don't think there's any like specific requirements you have to support Taiwan. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that it's a bit empty that anytime you want to annoy Chinese people or piss them off is just to like take a Taiwanese flag and wave it in public, because it's just easy to get support that way. If that's my main point. However, ultimately, I think that what he did is funny. I mean, it's a very British thing to do. And I think that ultimately it is a good thing for Taiwan at the end of the day, because if they're getting their plights, their issues, their problems out onto the world stage, I think that's ultimately a good thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is like the freedom of speech aspect to this is interesting, because I think at one point in the video he says, we're not in China anymore. Why are you holding a communist flag? I'm not quoting him word for word, because I don't remember exactly what it was said. It was something along those lines. You're holding a communist flag. And the guy goes, or someone in the video goes, that's racist, you know? And they get the police involved. Which is kind of hilarious. Because there's nothing racist about that. They are holding the flag, the Chinese flag with the stars on it. That's a communist flag. I don't know which way, I don't know how you want to spin it. That's what it is. That's what that is. That's a communist flag that you're holding. There's nothing racist about that, but it's a genius play. And you hear this argument a lot, particularly from like conservative media in the West. This fucking dog, by the way, just really quickly, is chained to this big shipping container. It is a mean looking dog. It's got a big face. It's chained. I'm just waiting for I walk by here almost every day, and I'm waiting for the day that thing fucking runs at me and snaps the chain. God damn. Anyways, so yeah. what the hell was I talking about? The freedom of speech part. I think, what the fuck was I just talking about? I'm gonna get yelled at right now. Sorry, my scatterbrain right now. God damn, that fucking dog took it right out of me. I was on a roll there for a little bit. Jesus Christ, someone help me out here. Give the dog food and make it a friend. Fuck that, no way. You have to understand, like, a lot of these, not that dog because it's chained, so it's obviously kind of like a pet. It's not a pet, it's a guard dog for the property. But these aren't petting dogs, Dion. And when you come to Taiwan, you'll see like wild dogs and stuff walking around. I've mentioned this in the last live stream around this area. Not to be trifled with. Don't mess with that. Those dogs are not nice. And I've known a few people that have been bitten by them before. Okay, China, Taiwan, Dr. K, thumbs up, Dr. K, hooray for freedom of speech. The racist flag. Oh yeah, the racism thing. So yeah, thanks, Dion. You hear this a lot from conservative media. It's kind of this conspiracy theory that they have. I wouldn't even call it a conspiracy theory. I think it has a lot of weight to it. But it's this idea that China is using a bit of soft power to kind of slowly change the trajectory of Western culture, where you have this kind of idea of like white guilt or stop Asian hate, or like all of these things that you see pop up in the West in the last few years are like perfect for China, because anytime you criticize China, or every time, like in this situation, you point at the Chinese flag and you say, that's a communist flag, you can just go, well, that's racist. You know what I mean? And then the police get involved and now you're in trouble. And that's almost what happened, because the female police officer that shows up to the scene kind of starts, fuck me, am I going the wrong way? We'll go this way. It's kind of cool. You can kind of see the rest of the city behind me there. Okay, here's another big problem with walking around. This truck's pulled over with its door swung open right next to a parked car on the sidewalk, and now I have to walk onto this busy road and not die. So I'm just gonna peek around the corner. Nothing coming. Please don't get hit by a car or bitten by a dog. So yeah, it's a fuck me. Jesus Christ. Everyone's got guard dogs out today. It's, fuck. It's a genius ploy by China. You can just say, ooh, big truck coming, gonna duck into here. You can just say it's racist anytime they're being criticized. And it's part of a larger theory where you have like, the rise of apps like TikTok, which is a Chinese company. You could say, they have this kind of theory that they're trying to make the youth of the West dumb by having them addicted to this app where they just like dance in front of it, which I didn't really believe. I thought that was kind of a bit far-fetched until I went to the UK last month and I saw, 13, 14-year-olds, teenagers, that kind of thing, preteens, like just obsessed with this app, and they're just doing all these dances and stuff, whatever. I mean, it's fine, it's harmless, but you could make a strong case for like, what is China doing with this app? And what kind of things are doing behind the scenes to kind of alter Western culture to sort of kowtow or bend down to China when it comes to criticisms. Like they can deflect criticism by like throwing this race card out there. But the fact that police officer who showed up on scene kind of took the Chinese people's side in a way, it's just so ridiculous. There's nothing that Brandon Kavanaugh said in that video that was remotely racist. I don't think he said anything racist about Chinese people in the past. Maybe he has, but in that situation, there is nothing racist that's happening. He's just standing there. He's trying to do his thing. He's playing the piano. Everyone's happy. Everyone's having a good time. He's doing his thing. And they walk up to him and they're like, you can't film us. And he's like, fuck you. I could fucking do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? We're not in China anymore. I can film you. I can do whatever I like. And I don't know if it was a case of that guy losing face, like the Chinese guy who's filming or the guy who's yelling at him. I don't know if it's a case of him losing face or suddenly realizing where he is and then snapping, just losing his goddamn mind and yelling at Brandon Kavanaugh, which I have seen in the past. Like, no, I haven't seen anyone or had the experience where someone's asked me to stop filming in public. But I have seen Chinese people and Taiwanese people lose face in a public situation where it's obvious to everyone, and they don't know how to handle it, and they snap and they lose their mind, and they get upset and they get angry, and things like that do happen. So I don't know if that was the case, but something about that situation is incredibly off to me, incredibly odd. I think the closest explanation I can come as to why there's a bunch of Chinese people standing in a group holding Chinese flags, wearing red scarves, is that a common practice, I think in a lot of Asia, but particularly with Taiwan and China, is tour groups. So like this is popular with older people. Although the people in that video didn't seem particularly all that old, but it's popular. They'll join tour groups. Like, you know, if they're traveling internationally, they'll join a tour. So you have like a group of them that won't necessarily hold the flag of the country that they're from, but they'll usually hold some kind of banner, like maybe the logo of the tour agency that they're a part of. And then one guy holds like a microphone and like just shows them around and tells them what to do. And it's just like an easier way to travel because the itinerary is already set up for them. And I don't know, old people just kind of like it. It's kind of cute. It's like a field trip for old people. It's kind of cute. But that's the only reason, that's like the closest thing I could figure out as to like why are there Chinese people standing around with flags in their hands, like waiting, like looking for trouble. It's really weird. It's really something so off about that situation. It almost looks, I'm not saying it's staged, but if it was, I'd be like, yeah, okay. I don't think it was. But if it was, genius. Because Brandon Kavanaugh is getting a whole bunch of attention on the internet right now, including from me. But yeah, so my main takeaway of this is that it isn't necessarily about supporting Taiwan. You know, what he did, holding the Taiwanese flag, dancing on the seat, kind of shoving it in China's face, is funny. I'm all for it. I think ultimately it's a good thing for Taiwan. You know, he had politicians, Taiwanese politicians, and other people thanking him for supporting Taiwan. But in my mind, he's not supporting Taiwan. He doesn't know a goddamn thing about Taiwan, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think it's actual support for Taiwan. It's not about Taiwan. It's about annoying Chinese people. And that's really, I think, the sad part of it. And that's what Taiwan has become. Is it that it isn't anything, people don't like Taiwan for anything Taiwanese. There's nothing particularly Taiwanese that people enjoy or feel passionate about or want to culturally import and consume and enjoy. People like Taiwan because it isn't China. And it's fun to annoy people that you disagree with. It's fun to poke and piss off and prod people that you fundamentally disagree with. And that's what Taiwan has become, is this prawn or this sort of cow prod that we can go and stick China in the face with, like, what do you think of that? A democratic, free country right next door. What do you think of that? You know what I mean? Like, but meanwhile, there's nothing about Taiwan that you actually enjoy. And I find that a little bit sad. But who knows, because, Taiwan is a relatively new nation and hasn't had enough time to develop its own culture. So maybe this is just the beginning. This is the beginning stages. You have people's eyes on Taiwan. You have this Brandon Kavanaugh situation happen and people start paying attention to Taiwan. And then maybe with a bit of luck and a bit of ingenuity and a bit of curiosity, maybe Taiwan will produce something culturally significant enough where other countries start to import it. I've said this a lot of times before, but you look at Korea's, what they've done in the last 10 or 15 years. K-pop, Korean dramas, Korean makeup products, you name it, everything Korean is so popular now. And they've really nailed the cultural win lately. And so if Taiwan can replicate that somehow, while everyone's eyes are on this country, I think is ultimately a win. So yeah, so I'm gonna get into the comments a little bit here, because I've been ignoring you guys a little bit too much. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to turn this into a proper video, because I've sang this song for so long. I've said that, people don't care about Taiwan, and it's just that whole spiel. I've said it so much that I feel like I don't want to make another goddamn video about it. And plus, so many YouTubers in Taiwan have made videos about it already. I just didn't really know if I had anything different to say, or if I had anything that I had to say that I hadn't already said before. So we'll see. I'll go back and I'll read these comments and see what you guys kind of feel about it. Sorry, just cross the street without getting hit by a cement mixer. So Taiwan did in the past, they used to make Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. That's a fun place to park, sir. Just get around this scooter. I mean, yeah, I guess. They were sort of the manufacturing hub of the world, but like, that's the same problem as before. You know, back in the day, kids used to look at the bottom of the car, the little Matchbox cars that they used to play with, and it says made in Taiwan. They go, oh cool, made in Taiwan. Everything is made in Taiwan. That still doesn't tell you anything about Taiwan. It still doesn't mean that you know anything about Taiwan. This is cool. I promise I'll get to the comments in a section. When I'm walking inside this high school, I probably shouldn't be filming inside of a high school, but you can't see any of the students. But they're doing like pretty intense obstacle courses, almost military style obstacle courses. You can see they have like a wall set up kind of there that they, I'm assuming, have to climb over. And they have archery targets set up. So they practice archery and like wall climbing stuff. That's cool. I didn't get to do that in high school. Very cool. Lunar New Year is a country agnostic and representative of the moon connection. Okay, I don't know what, I think different conversations happening here in the chat. At least people don't pretend that Taiwan isn't exist today. It's a start. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, you know, that's a good point. Like, despite how empty it might be that he's holding a Taiwanese flag, at least it's being represented in some capacity. That's ultimately a good thing, sure. Taiwan has a culture. The problem is that it's a culture to an extent is shared with China, and it's stuck in its shadow. Other countries have imported plenty of Taiwanese stuff, boba and computer chips. Know what you mean, but unfortunately, computer chips are not a cultural export. And boba, although yes, is one of the few Taiwanese exports that people enjoy, I'm not confident that people walking around aggressive. I'm not confident that people walking around the UK or Canada or America who enjoy boba, I'm not confident that they actually know that it's from Taiwan. You know what I mean? When you go for tteokbokki or when you go for Korean barbecue or whatever, you know exactly that it's Korean. Or when you go for sushi, you go to eat sushi, everybody knows that's from Japan. Everybody knows that, you know? When you go for pad thai, everybody knows that's from Thailand. You know, when you eat pho or however it's pronounced, everyone knows that's from Vietnam. When you go for boba, when you go for bubble milk tea, when you go for nai cha, nobody knows that's from Taiwan. Nobody has any fucking clue. My main point of this whole video is that nobody gives a fucking shit. Nobody cares. Taiwan has to figure out a way to get people to care about the island itself while somehow subtracting China from the situation, which is incredibly not an easy task to do. I think that's maybe part of what we're doing with these videos that we make. At least, I think that's why. At least that's what I tried to. I think, I've said this before, but I think Ku's dream is particularly good at that. He's very good at filming and highlighting and experiencing things that are distinctly Taiwanese. It's just not, I don't know, it's not easily consumed by foreigners, that's the biggest problem. But I think he does tend to find things that are Taiwanese and do a good job with them. So, plenty of Taiwanese YouTubers mention bobas from Taiwan though, like whoever that person is. Sure, I mean, sure, but that still doesn't mean that other people around the world know that it's from Taiwan. Okay, I remember the first time I went to Tainan and that feeling of, oh, so this is Taiwan. It has its own culture, language, and history that is totally separate from KMT bullshit. Tainan. Oh, I guess, okay, I guess because Tainan has, sure. I guess because Tainan's like an older city and they've kept a lot of the older architecture, you can kind of feel like you're in, I think if that's your point. Yeah, okay. Oh, geez, I've missed a super chat. I wish I could just tap on the top where the super chat came in. Oh, there it is. Kavanaugh was just as ignorant as we were. Do you remember? Remember being the person who discovered all the facts at once without understanding? We learned. We thought we were so smart at first. LOL. Okay, yeah, good point. Thanks for the super chat, Sean Rice. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true too. You know, like there's a point in which everybody has to learn about Taiwan at some point. I distinctly remember being in like the 7th grade and we were doing something about countries. I'm not really sure. Maybe I was just looking something up at the computer in the library. And I remember being like, what? Thailand and Taiwan are 2 different places? Like, I was in the 7th grade. I don't know dick all about the world, but I remember like that being like such a wake up moment for me, being like, what the fuck? I didn't know that. You know what I mean? Like my dumbass didn't even. But yeah, but like I said earlier, like I'm not claiming that you have to know everything about Taiwan or that you have to come to the country or experience to like support it, right? I think if you're doing what Brendan Kavanaugh did and support the ideas of free speech and democracy and being able to, you know, do what you want in public without, well, I mean, to an extent, right? Without people telling you that you can't do that. That's a poor example, but you know what I mean? Those ideas, which are fundamentally part of what it means to be Taiwanese, I think, you know, is important. But yeah, I did feel like it was empty. They had the Dragon services for next year of the Dragon. I don't know, I think there's this whole discussion of Lunar New Year in the chat that I've missed. My thoughts exactly. Nobody cares anymore about the piano thing in Taiwan. I don't know that anybody cares about it anymore. I didn't hear about anyone talk about it. Like, it happened on January 20th, and like outside of the foreign YouTube community, no one talked about it. I didn't really see any posts on Instagram. I think the reason why this is because Taiwanese people are so used to Chinese antics. You know, these really arrogant and abrasive displays of nationalism that come from Chinese people and the constant battering that Taiwanese people get about it not being a real country and all this kind of thing. They're so used to it that I have a funny feeling that when this whole thing happened and Taiwanese people saw these Chinese people get in Brandon Kavanaugh's face and do all those ridiculous things, I feel like Taiwanese people were just kind of like, yeah, sounds like them. You know what I mean? So there wasn't really this like giant, they didn't really make a big deal out of it on the internet. They were just kind of like, yeah, that's Chinese people. Like, they're so used to it that they just didn't really give a shit. I think that's probably why I personally didn't see anything on the internet about it, but yeah. I'm older than Kavanaugh, I think, but he didn't know shit about China or Taiwan until just suddenly. Yeah, I think that's true. He was just like in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, however you want to put that, and just so happened to capitalize on that situation, and now he's like sort of the bastion for free speech. Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for all the fun and accurate videos about Taiwan. My significant other is in Canada, is interested in moving back to Taiwan with me, and we watch your videos to bond over culture. Well, thanks, I appreciate that. Hope he makes it to Taiwan. Plenty of famous YouTubers mentioned boat. Yeah, I've said that already. Hong Kong had keyword, had a good museum display of creation. Kazi, they were planning to make a video for the Chinese New Year, complete with costumes and little flags. That is the only part they didn't want filmed. Okay, so that's why they were there. To shoot a Chinese New Year, a Lunar New Year video. Okay, I didn't know that. It's good to know that there's an actual film crew there. And it wasn't just like, but what a weird thing to do, you know? Like, the person in the video said that she's British, and the guy who was speaking had like pretty good English. And I don't think that you can get that far along in English and not realize or not understand that what you're doing is ridiculous in the UK. But I mean, I guess I can respect the balls that he had to walk up to some British dude and tell him not to film and stop like playing, like just stop filming us. It's like, good luck with that. Have fun, enjoy. I would like to see that Chinese guy do that at a British pub somewhere. Like go to the north of England, walk into a country pub where there's a bunch of old disgruntled British dudes drinking beer and try and tell them to stop. I'd love to see how far he'd get before getting thrown through the pub window. That'd be funny. He didn't have the balls to do it. He sent the girl to do it from the start. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel bad for the girl too, because I feel like she was a little uncomfortable with the situation where like, don't touch her, don't touch her, you're not the same age. And she's just kind of like, this is a little bit much, you know what I mean? I feel like she was sort of the sacrificial twig in that situation. It was only when she wasn't making progress that she came over and then just started shouting. Yeah. Taiwanese see the pianist incident as another China joke. Yeah. Let me get into some more comments. I'll have to get into some older ones. That's not harmful to Taiwan, though. If anything, Taiwan, more people get exposed to Taiwan, the same place. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, I mean that was my main point as well before, was that it's at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything bad for Taiwan. Ultimately, it's a good thing for Taiwan. It's good that they're getting this exposure. But anyways, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the situation. Whatever, like, fanatical displays of Chinese nationalism happen all the time. It's not news to me. It's probably not news to you. It's definitely not news to Taiwanese people. That's why they didn't really care that this happened. It's just kind of like, whatever. You know, you're watching a public meltdown happen. A temper tantrum is what it is, by a Chinese person who's felt wronged in this situation. And it happens more often than it should. So people are just kind of used to it. They just kind of like have this like fuck off attitude about it. And I wasn't gonna talk about it, you know, with just that situation. It wasn't until he went back to the piano, took the Taiwanese flag and danced with it, where I was like, okay, funny. You know, I get like, I sort of feel like, is that what the flag is for now? You know what I mean? Just to piss off another country. You know, it's the same. I wonder if you could make, I don't know, but I wonder if you could make the same argument with the Ukrainian flag. You know, I was in Canada during the summer, and I was in the UK over Christmas, like I mentioned, and I saw a lot of Ukrainian flags being flown outside people's houses. And I do think there's a genuine support for Ukrainian people, particularly in Canada, because we have an enormous number of Ukrainian people in Canada before the war. We had a lot of Ukrainian people of Ukrainian descent in Canada. I want to say Canada has the most amount of Ukrainian people in it outside of Ukraine. I don't know if that's particularly true, but I do know we have a lot of Ukrainians. So I think there is a lot of genuine support for Ukraine as a country. But I wonder how much of that display of the flag has to do with simply pissing Russian people off, rather than support for the Ukraine. But yeah, I think this is also like a cultural lesson too, where like when you're interacting with Chinese people to a lesser extent, because I think that Taiwanese people are a lot more socially mature than Chinese people in a lot of cases. Although I have seen a lot of Taiwanese people freak out in public when they lose face, but definitely a lot less than when I was in China. This is actually probably a whole other video idea. But when you're speaking with Chinese people and you start touching on things like communism or nationalism or differences that you might have with them in a political way or a nationalistic way, or when you start talking about Taiwan, you better get ready for that type of response, that same response you saw in the Brendan Kavanaugh video. You're gonna see that. You're gonna see like shouting and meltdowns and emotional displays, and it's like really hard to watch. You know, It's like I've worked with kids, young kids, like my whole life, and they have temper tantrums. It's normal. It happens. They lose their shit. They don't have a very good control over their emotions. They don't have, they don't have like, they just don't have control until they lose it and they have temper tantrums. But to watch like a fully grown adult throw a temper tantrum is fucking terrifying. But it does happen a lot with Chinese people. It happens a lot with, you can go, this used to be like a favorite hobby of mine when I lived in China, but these compilations or compilations of like, this is probably a bad example because it's probably warranted, but a lot of, I won't say a lot, but like Chinese husbands, if they cheat on their wives will go and find their xiaosan, or their little three, which is the Chinese word for like a side girl, so to speak. Whoa! Fuck me, did that look as close on camera as it felt in real life? I felt the wind go by on that guy. Anyways, they'll go and like find their xiaosan and like fight them in public and scream and freak out and drop to the ground and just like, it's funny. I mean, it's sad that their husbands cheated on them, but the response is hilarious. Actually, I will talk about one public display. I don't know if I've ever told this story on YouTube before, but it's such a funny story to me. But here's a story of someone publicly freaking out in China. So I moved to China with a good buddy of mine. We met, I think, a year before we went to China. We met in Canada. We became good friends, and I told him my plans to move to Korea, was where I was going initially, but ended up going to China. And so he like just decided to join like a month before we were gonna go, which was fun. Anyway, so we're in China and we're living in Henan province. We're living in Kaifeng and we're teaching at Henan University there. And he starts dating this girl, this local Chinese girl, who I guess was normal enough. I don't know, she was fine. But her parents caught on to the fact that she was dating a foreigner. Now, in Taiwan, usually parents are okay with their kids dating foreigners. It's not really a big deal, although sometimes they do take issue with it because families are very close-knit, and they're worried that their daughters or their sons will move to another country and then they won't get to see them as often. But not so much in Taiwan really anymore. I think Taiwan has kind of progressed past that sort of cultural thing. Whereas in China, it's a very big deal for someone in the family to be dating a foreigner. I shouldn't say not a lot of, but there are families who are super against it, not okay with it, and her family was one of them. So one day, the other weird thing is that when we moved to this university, they promised us accommodation. We were gonna live in an apartment. But when we got there, it wasn't an apartment, it was a hotel. And it was such a fucking sleazy move. Like, they never told us this. Even the company that hired me, which was a foreign-owned company, never told me. And of course they knew. But yeah, we were living in a hotel. And it was basically this thing where it's like, okay, this hotel room is yours, do whatever you want, you live here full time, but of course the hotel is still in use by the university. So such a weird situation. One of those things that can only happen in China, kind of. Anyways, the girl that my friend was dating followed her to his hotel room, or his apartment, whatever you want to call it, and found her in there with a foreigner. So she gets on the phone to her husband, the girl's dad, who shows up, knocks on the door, my friend answers, the dad sees his daughter in there, pushes the door open, takes his flip-flop off, and just starts or his slipper, and just starts beating the ever-living shit out of my friend with it. And my friend is running around this little hotel room, jumping over the bed, trying to run around in circles to get away from this dude who's just going to town on my buddy. And he grabs his phone and he calls me up, and he's like, my fucking girlfriend's dad is here. I don't know who this guy is. We didn't speak Chinese at that time, so we didn't even know who this guy was. But he's trying to explain to me this guy's over and he's just beating the crap out of him. I'm like, what is going on? So I come out of my room. Well, actually, I moved out of that hotel. I moved into I moved into an apartment literally across the street because I didn't want to live in a hotel. That was ridiculous. So I come out of my hotel room and I'm about to walk into the lobby when my buddy is like running out of the hotel with this girl's dad, you know, in tow, very close. And he's just trying to like rip my friend a new one. He's just trying his best to catch him, literally out of a comedy sketch or like a cartoon from the 30s. It was hilarious. And it came to the point where my friend eventually escapes the hotel, and he runs out the door, but he trips and falls, and the dad catches up with him, so he runs back into the hotel. And they're literally, like, the doors to this hotel, there's like 6 of them, right? It's this big grand entrance, and the hotel doors can swing, it can pull and push. I don't know if that makes sense, but you can pull or push these doors so they kind of open out of their way. And so they're literally running in circles, in and out of these doors, in the hotel lobby, out of the hotel lobby, in the hotel lobby. And eventually my friend gets tired, so he just like holds the door shut, and the dad like tries to open it, but he can't because my friend's holding it shut. So the dad just like opens the door next to him. It was so funny. But the public display of emotion was from the mother, who the whole time is outside the hotel lobby with her daughter's hair gripped in her hand, and the mom just goes limp, right? She's just a limp dead body on the ground, wailing to the heavens, screaming, freaking out, crying, you know, just hysterical, just all out of sorts about the fact that her daughter is dating this foreigner. And it was just like, I remember it was like my first 2-3 months in China or something. And to me at the time, it just looked ridiculous. I was laughing my ass off at the whole time. I guess it was a bit insensitive because to this Chinese family, it's such a big deal. They were just absolutely distraught. You know, you've got this Chinese father who's beating the shit out of this foreigner with a slipper, and the mom who's literally on the ground holding her daughter's hair, screaming her face off. The whole time, by the way, me and my friend have no fucking clue who these random Chinese people are. We don't have the slightest clue. So to us, it was like such a weird situation. We were like, what the hell? And like that display of emotion, that temper tantrum was 1,000 times more violent and obvious and ridiculous as the one in this Brendan Kavanaugh situation. But yeah, funny story from my time in China, and a ridiculous one. But anyways, I suppose I should look at these comments. Okay, we're arguing with Confucianism in here. Is that how Matt and Winston got so far apart? This is interesting. The stream seems a week too late. Well, no, I mean, this stream is more about, I didn't talk about the initial thing that happened, you know, where the Chinese people come and talk to him. I wanted to make this stream as a response to him holding the Taiwanese flag. So this stream is right on time. But anyways, I'm gonna end this stream right about now because I gotta go edit a video. But I thank you guys so much for watching. It was a ton of fun. I hope to do this again next week. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. But yeah, I really appreciate the super chats from Dion and Sean Rice. Really appreciate that. You guys are helping me put food on the table. So whatever I eat tonight will be courtesy of you. So yeah, appreciate you guys so much for watching. Stay positive, keep your stick in the ice. Catch you guys next one. I'll have a video for you this week, I promise. Bye.